Redditors who rage quit a job without thinking. What was the last straw? I worked as a painter for a franchisee of a student painting company, and he kept telling me that he would pay me next week. This went on for about 6 weeks, and the final straw was when I had finished several large projects that would give him ample money to pay me, but he decided to hire on another person instead of paying me for all the work I had already done. Like $1,300 worth of work. Then he tried negotiating down what he thought he should be paying me, despite already having agreed in writing what I would be getting paid right from the get-go. I was so mad that I didn't give him notice or even show up for the next day of work because I had bills to pay and needed to make as much money as possible during the summer. I wrote him off as a lost cause and took him to small claims court for what he owed me, and eventually got my money through the court. Still was a pain in the ass though, and as far as I know he's still working there full-time. I need a summer job while in high school, so I applied at a local grocery store to bag, stock, clean. My first day there was some sort of confusion as to what I was supposed to do or to whom I was to report. I was sent to the front counter where the customer service manager gave me a till and told me to open a register. Mind you, I'd had zero training on a register. I didn't even know how to put the till in it, for fuck's sake. I told the lady this and was told to go do my job. Within about 2 minutes at the register there was a line several deep, and I'm just standing there with the till in my hands. The customer service lady comes storming over asking why I had such a line, and I tried again to explain to her that I was supposed to be a stocker or whatever and that I knew nothing about operating a register. She called me stupid in front of the customers, so I handed her the till and told her to go fuck herself. Walked down the street in my uniform and got a job at another grocery store. I was 21 working at UPS. Was a truck loader the first year. Became the fastest loader in the warehouse just because I like working quickly. Only wanted to become a supervisor because my manager was really easy to work with and always wanted to help with solutions to problems. Once they promoted me to supervisor, they transferred my manager to a different warehouse and didn't say why. Worked as a supervisor for a year, and once peak season arrived, mid-November, early January, things were getting crazy and my manager was just a yes man to his boss. Never helped solve issues, just said, figure it out, or, just get it done. Well, in November my best friend and I had won a World Series of Beer Pong satellite tourney to get a free entry and stay at the Flamingo in Vegas for the tournament worth $600. Tournament was from January 1st–5th. Well, during peak season it's nearly impossible to get time off, and I looked at this tournament as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with my best friend. Things were just getting so crazy and they weren't approving any vacation requests. I wasn't getting assistance from my boss with the workload, so I just said fuck it, I'm out. Come to find out, my manager, his boss and 4 other managers got fired for changing time cards to make their production's numbers look better. Which I found out is why they shipped my cool manager away, cause he wouldn't participate in the dirty deeds. My best friend and I placed 46th out of 500 teams. It was one of the best memories I have to this day. No regrets. I used to work as a housekeeper at a really shady hotel. Wasn't the best job in the world, but the pay actually wasn't that bad. The owner and his wife were horrible to everyone, especially the housekeepers. I eventually worked my way to being the head housekeeper, but they kept referring to me as a maid. I don't know why that bothered me so much, but it did. Anyway, the rodeo was in town and we were really busy. I had every single room to clean, and none of my other housekeepers were showing up for work. So I asked my boss where they were and he said he gave them the day off. They're young and have stuff to do. They were all high schoolers and I was 19 at the time. It was summer, so he decided he wanted them to go out and have fun and leave the 65 rooms to me. I was already mad at that, but then it got worse. I get to about my 15th room, I'm exhausted, and I just want to get one more done so I can take a break. I knock on the door, no answer. So I let myself in only to see a man standing naked in the doorway. I apologize and try to leave when he calls me back. He said he wanted me to clean the room. I told him I couldn't while he was still there and certainly not while he was naked. He said I had to do it, he was a guest. I go to my boss and explain why I wasn't cleaning that room. He told me I had to do what the customer said. If he wanted to be naked and in the room while I cleaned, then that's what had to happen. I threw my cleaning rag at him, told him to fuck off and left the rest of the rooms to him. My first job in aircraft maintenance was for a grumpy old dirtbag. I was a completely green apprentice fresh out of school, and the old bastard had no understanding of what his obligations were when taking on an apprentice and expected me to just already know everything. He'd send me to do jobs unsupervised, wouldn't provide any instruction or guidance, then get upset if I messed something up. He chewed me out for taking too long to do stuff. He'd occasionally call me into his office and quiz me on random shit, then belittle me for not having all the answers, telling me he was going to phone up his buddies at the college and tell them how disappointed he was with the quality of their graduates. Guy was a total hypocrite too. Didn't have current manuals for any of the aircraft, didn't properly track parts and hardware. He literally had a room full of random spare parts with no history, and took all sorts of shortcuts. One time during a windscreen replacement, rather than measuring out the hardener for a sealant, he eyeballed it. Shit was supposed to set up in a couple hours, but it hadn't hardened after 3 days, so he made me paint over it. We were supposed to cut open and inspect every oil filter we replaced, looking for metal that could indicate a failing engine. He'd store all the old oil filters on a giant workbench without labeling them after a year or two go inspect them all at once. If any had metal, there was no way of knowing which aircraft it came from. He got away with being shitty because the Transport Canada inspector responsible for audits in that area was a friend of his, and he'd boast about how audits consisted of them bullshitting over donuts in the break room for 3 days. Anyway, it was the last day of my probation and he called me into his office to tell me he had a very difficult decision about whether to keep me on. I told him I'd make it easy for him and quit on the spot. I worked on a farm throughout high school for a very wealthy couple. The husband was a successful commercial real estate agent, and the wife trained dogs to do hunt and field tests. I primarily worked for the wife, assisting in training the dogs, but as it was a farm, I did various things for the husband as well. The husband was a raging alcoholic who would get pissed if you wouldn't share a drink with him when offered. When his wife was out of town participating in competitions with the dogs, I would have to drive over to the farm multiple times a day to feed the horses, clean out their stalls, etc., and I would often run into him, but I tried to avoid it when possible because he made me uncomfortable. Anyway, I was like 17 and it was summer, so I accidentally slept through my 6 a.m. alarms one morning and didn't get to the farm until around 8 to feed the horses and clean out their stalls. Not like it mattered, horses can't tell time. The husband was there and had already been drinking, as I could smell it on him, and he started laying into me about being so late. He told me I was a poor white trash piece of shit, and if my parents let me oversleep for my job then they're even worse white trash pieces of shit and I won't ever amount to anything just like them, yada yada. I told him he could take care of the horse shit himself and that I quit, and as I was leaving he was yelling at the top of his lungs that he would find me and kill me. I never went back. It was a Wednesday. I got a call from my mom when I was at work to tell me that my dad took a turn for the worse and maybe had a day or two left to live. I immediately went to the company owner, small business, and told her the situation, and I really needed to leave right away since he lived a few hundred miles away. She told me she understood, but, since I was working on some important projects, I should just come in on Saturday since he should be dead by then. I said okay, turned around, walked to my desk, deleted all my personal files from the computer, left my badge and keys on my keyboard, and walked out. Dad passed on Friday, and I turned off my phone that night until the following Wednesday or Thursday while I spent time with my family. I already hated the job and the owner for other reasons and found a new job a few weeks later, so I can't say I regret anything. I got in trouble for going to the bathroom. I worked at a call center, it was an emergency, and I followed protocol. Finished my call as best as I could, wrote in the team chat that I would be switching to busy, put my phone on busy, and ran to the washroom, which was on the other side of the building. Seriously, one washroom for a building of like 1,500 employees and you literally have to walk like 1 kilometer to get to it. I took like 5 to 10 minutes tops. I can't emphasize enough what an emergency code brown situation this was. And when I got back, put my phone back on, and got back in. I was reamed out in front of the entire calling floor, easily 300 people on my contract, because I couldn't wait the extra 2h for my assigned 15 minutes break. Next day I was resolved to quit without any notice. Talked to HR, my supervisor, and told them that today would be my last day and I'm out.